They sat me in the garage at my parents' anniversary. Mom said it was just for extended family. Meanwhile, even my thieving cousin had a spot inside. I grabbed my gift, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Extend this." Dad chased after me in front of everyone. The engine hummed, but my ears were ringing. My hands were clamped on the wheel, knuckles white, shaking so hard I thought I'd lose control. My chest felt like it was being crushed, the air thick with the smell of old oil, and was that shame? It happened tonight at their party, my parents' 35th anniversary, and I walked out, just walked out after what my mother said, after where they put me, 32 years old, and it took being seated in the garage to finally understand. All the years of trying, of giving, of just wanting to be seen, it all led to a folding chair by the lawnmower. Growing up, our house always felt like a stage where Emma was the star and I was the stagehand, maybe the quiet one who made sure everything ran smoothly in the background. Emma, for years younger, was sunshine and glitter, charming, effortlessly popular, everything our parents seemed to value. I was more clouds and quiet rain. They adored her accomplishments, big or small. My achievements? Met with a nod, maybe, or a quick comparison to something Emma did better. Oh, Michael got an A in calculus? That's nice. Emma's lead in the school play was just magical, wasn't it? My mother had a particular sigh, a slow exhale that conveyed deep disappointment without a single word. It was often aimed at me. My father's signature move was a dismissive pat on the shoulder, a nonverbal way of saying, all right, move along. I craved their approval like a lifeline. I thought if I was just good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, easy enough, they would finally see me. I became the designated peacemaker. When Emma and my mother clashed, I was the one who stepped in, smoothed things over, absorbed the tension. Michael, you're older, they'd say, their voices weary. You should know better than to upset your mother/sister. So I learned to anticipate, to avoid conflict, to take responsibility for keeping the peace, even when the conflict wasn't mine. Like the car. I was 17, finally had my own beat-up Camaro I'd saved for. Emma, 15, snuck it out, wrapped it around a lamppost a few blocks away. She was terrified, crying. My parents were furious about the car. Before they could even ask, I stepped up, said I lost control, swerved. It cost me my entire summer job savings and then some to fix it, working extra hours at the diner. I remember wiping grease off my hands late one night, aching and thinking, they'll appreciate this. This is sacrifice. This is family. My parents just shook their heads. Really irresponsible, Michael. We expected better. Emma barely said thank you. The silence felt heavier than the debt. Later, in my 20s, I was just starting to build my career. Dad lost his job unexpectedly. They were facing foreclosure. I drained my savings, postponed my own plans, and helped them with the mortgage payments for nearly a year until Dad found something else. It was tight, really tight for me, eating ramen and working weekends. When the crisis passed, my mother said, "We appreciate you helping out, Michael. That was good of you. Good of me. Not essential. Not life-saving. Just good. Like bringing over a casserole." Last year, they needed $15,000 for extensive home repairs. A leaky roof. Some structural issues. They called me first. Not Emma, who was doing very well financially by then. Me. "Michael, we don't know what we'll do." My mother sighed into the phone, that familiar sound twisting something in my gut. I barely hesitated. I had the money saved for a down payment on a small condo of my own. That dream went on hold. I transferred the money, watching the number on the screen shrink, thinking of the extra shifts, the careful budgeting, and feeling a familiar emptiness. They weren't effusive. Just, "Oh, that's good, Michael. The roof really needs it. We'll pay you back when we can." All these instances blurred together, a lifetime of being the reliable provider, the quiet supporter, the emotional sponge, the one who always showed up, but somehow remained firmly in the background. I was the solid oak tree in their garden, taken for granted, while Emma was the flashy, vibrant rose everyone admired. So when the invitation for their 35th anniversary party arrived, a formal, almost impersonal card that felt more like a command to appear than a warm invitation, my first instinct was exhaustion. A lavish party, they could barely afford the house with my help. It felt like another instance of them prioritizing appearance over reality, or perhaps expecting me to cover the difference again somehow. I kept my distance from their constant demands lately, building a quieter life. But still, when the RSVP deadline loomed, the old patterns kicked in. Maybe, just maybe, this milestone would be different. Maybe, Surrounded by friends and family, they would feel a flicker of genuine appreciation, or at least acknowledge my existence beyond my utility. I RSVP'd yes. I even helped them find a fantastic caterer through a connection at my company. Got them a great deal. Just another thing I did quietly to help. I didn't expect to be seated at the head table or anything extravagant. Just a seat inside. A seat at the table. To feel like family. The evening was warm and humid. The kind of sticky southern night where the air hangs heavy with the scent of jasmine and possibility. Pulling up to my parents' house, transformed for the occasion, felt surreal. Fairy lights twinkled in the old oak trees I used to climb. The lawn was manicured. The porch draped with elegant white fabric. Soft music drifted from the open windows. Valet parking attendants I knew they couldn't truly afford waved cars into the driveway. It looked perfect. Picture-perfect Southern celebration. Inside, the house was buzzing. People I hadn't seen in years. Friends of my parents, distant cousins, neighbors. My mother was radiant in a blue dress. My father beaming beside her, playing the charming hosts. Emma was, of course, circulating effortlessly. Looking stunning. Laughing. Drawing a crowd. I felt a familiar tightening in my chest. The old performance anxiety kicking in. Smile, Michael. Be pleasant. Don't rock the boat. I offered my congratulations. Gave them the gift I'd carefully chosen. A framed vintage map of their hometown they'd always talked about finding. My mother took it with a polite smile, handing it off to an attendant almost immediately. Oh, lovely, Michael. Thank you for coming. My father gave me the quick, dismissive pat on the shoulder. Same as ever. Okay, breathe. Lower expectations. Just find my seat. I looked around the main room. Tables were beautifully set with crisp linen, china, and floral centerpieces. Place cards marked each seat. I didn't see my name at the head table, obviously, or at any of the tables near it, where closer family and important friends were seated. I wandered through the room, scanning the cards. My aunt and uncle, Emma's friends, even Mr. Henderson from down the street who just moved here last year. Still no Michael. A knot of anxiety started to form in my stomach. I saw my mother talking to the caterer. The one I recommended, got them a discount. I approached, trying to keep my voice light. Mom, I can't seem to find my seat. She turned, a flicker of impatience in her eyes before she masked it. Oh, Michael. Yes, your seat is out there. She gestured vaguely towards the back of the house, towards the side door that led to the garage. Confusion, then disbelief. Out there? In the garage. She gave that sigh, that familiar, deflating sound. Yes, it's just for extended family. Her tone implied it was a self-explanatory, perhaps slightly unfortunate but utterly necessary arrangement. My mind reeled. Extended family? I looked around the main room again. My cousin Mark was seated at a prime table near the back wall, laughing loudly. Mark, the one who stole Dad's golf clubs and Mom's jewelry 5 years ago, who had barely spoken to them since until suddenly he was back in the fold, charming his way through everything. And he was inside, at a table. I scanned the faces. People I knew were practically strangers to my parents were seated at proper tables in the main room. And I, their son, the one who helped save their home, was relegated to the garage. The garage. I walked towards the side door, the polite buzz of the party fading behind me, replaced by the echoing thud of my own heartbeat. Pushing open the door, I stepped onto the concrete floor. It smelled of gasoline, old tires, and dust. Fluorescent lights cast a harsh, cold glow. A single, long folding table stood in the center, covered with a plastic tablecloth. Folding chairs were set up around it. This wasn't an overflow space set up nicely. This was the garage. There were a few people seated there already. My great-aunt Carol, who was lovely but hadn't left her house in years and barely knew anyone. Mr. Henderson's awkward nephew, who was apparently helping with parking. And yes, there was Cousin Mark, leaning back in his chair, scrolling through his phone, looking utterly bored but definitely inside the house's orbit compared to this exiled zone. I stood there for a moment, the absurdity of it all washing over me, quickly followed by a wave of scalding humiliation. The music, the laughter, the clinking glasses from inside felt like a deliberate mockery. This wasn't an oversight. This wasn't a mistake. This was a clear, undeniable statement of where I ranked. Below the man who stole from them, among people who were barely connected or clearly didn't fit inside. I was less important, less valued, less family than a thief and practical strangers. My chest tightened, not like barbed wire this time, but like a concrete block settling heavily on my lungs. My vision blurred slightly at the edges. This was it. The culmination. The years of being overlooked, of having my contributions minimized, of being blamed for things I didn't do, of constantly being measured against Emma and found wanting. It all led to this folding chair beside the lawnmower at my parents' 35th wedding anniversary party. My rock bottom. And in that moment, something shifted. The old desire for approval, the yearning to be seen, didn't just fade. It snapped like a dry twig underfoot. It was replaced by a cold, hard clarity and a surge of righteous, blazing anger. I didn't belong here, not just in this garage, but in this toxic dynamic, in this performance of a family that didn't actually see me. I looked down at the gift still clutched in my hand, the framed map, a symbol of their history, their foundation. I had contributed to keeping that foundation from crumbling, not just with money, but with years of emotional energy. And this is how they honored that. By putting me in the garage, my fingers trembled, not with fear, but with suppressed fury. I didn't set the gift down. I turned around, the cheap plastic tablecloth and folding chairs a harsh contrast to the scene unfolding inside. I walked back through the side door into the main party room. The music seemed to falter slightly. Conversations died down. Heads turned. It felt like walking onto that stage I'd always worked behind, but this time I wasn't placing props. I was the act. My father saw me first. His smile faltered. "Michael, where are you going? What are you doing?" His voice was loud, carrying across the sudden hush. He started towards me, a look of concern mixing with annoyance, the annoyance of his perfect party being interrupted. I stopped near the center of the room, not far from where my mother stood, watching with wide eyes. I held up the framed map, not for them to take, but for everyone to see. My voice was quiet, but clear, amplified by the silence. "You seated me in the garage," I said, looking directly at my mother. Said it was for extended family. My gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of people who were not extended family, people who barely knew my parents, seated at tables. I looked at Mark, still visible from where I stood. "Even Mark has a seat inside," I added, the absurdity of it hitting me again. Then I looked back at my parents, at the beautiful, expensive facade they created. I held up the map, not throwing it, not slamming it down, but simply holding it, a tangible representation of their history, their home, everything I had helped preserve. "So," I said, my voice steady cold, "extend this." And I placed the framed map carefully down on an empty side table, turned around and walked out of the party, out of the house, out of the life I'd been trying to fit into for 32 years. My father called after me, louder this time, "Michael, get back here." But I didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept walking, through the fairy lights, past the confused valet attendants, and got into my car. The drive home was a blur of conflicting emotions. Anger, hot and sharp, warring with a deep, aching sorrow. Shame, yes, but it was quickly being overshadowed by a strange, exhilarating sense of freedom. I had done it. I had finally, publicly, refused to play my assigned role. The silence in my car was deafening after the party noise, but it was my silence. Control felt foreign and exhilarating. The text started before I was even halfway home. First from my mother, "Michael, what was that? How could you? You ruined everything," followed quickly by my father. "Your mother is distraught. Come back and apologize immediately." Then Emma. "Seriously, Michael? Making a scene at their anniversary. Grow up." The flying monkeys weren't far behind, calls and texts from aunts, uncles, and even some of my parents' friends, all with the same theme. "How dare you? You hurt them. You need to fix this." They were deploying the signature tactic. Make me the villain. Gaslight me into thinking my entirely justified reaction was the problem, not their actions. I didn't answer any of them that night. I pulled into my small apartment parking lot. The quiet solitude is stark contrast to the performative chaos I just escaped. My hands were still shaking as I unlocked my door. The apartment felt like a sanctuary. It was mine. No one could put me in the garage here. The next morning, the wave of raw emotion subsided, leaving behind a cold, hard resolve. I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were, ever. This wasn't just about a chair. It was about a lifetime of emotional neglect and financial exploitation masquerading as family obligation. I needed help navigating this. I wasn't equipped to handle their manipulation alone. I called my friend, Sarah. Sarah was the sister I never had, smart, direct, and fiercely loyal. I poured out the story, the humiliation, the anger, the years leading up to it. She listened without interruption. When I finished, she didn't hesitate. "Michael, that is absolutely messed up. You did the right thing walking out. More than the right thing. You stood up for yourself after decades. You need to protect yourself now, legally. This pattern, it's financial abuse layered with emotional garbage. My cousin is a family lawyer, brilliant with tricky situations like this. I'll connect you. Contacting the lawyer, Mr. Davies, felt daunting, like acknowledging that the break was permanent and serious. But Mr. Davies was calm and professional. He listened to the history, the financial contributions, the will they won't they promises about inheritance, the party incident, and the immediate backlash. While the seating arrangement isn't illegal, Michael, he explained, the pattern of significant unacknowledged financial contributions, especially tied to things like mortgage payments and home repairs, combined with potential issues regarding inheritance or past agreements, gives us grounds to seek clarity and potentially recoup some of your investment, or at least protect your future interests. Their reaction and attempts to slander you also need to be addressed. We need documentation. Gather everything. Bank records, emails, texts, letters. Anything related to money exchanged, promises made, or their treatment of you. The next few weeks were a painful deep dive into the past, going through old files, bank statements, searching through years of emails and text messages. Each document, each message was a little paper cut, reopening old wounds, finding the bank transfers for the mortgage for the $15,000 repair money, seeing the casual confirmations from my parents. It all just confirmed the imbalance. I was their safety net, their bank, their emotional punching bag, but never truly their son in the way Emma was their daughter. The smear campaign from my parents and Emma was in full swing. I received clipped emails from distant relatives saying things like, "Your mother is beside herself. Families forgive Michael. Pride is a terrible thing." I saw passive-aggressive Facebook posts from my mother about the pain of ingratitude and children who forget where they came from. Emma posted photos from the party, pointedly tagging everyone except me, captioning one album, "My beautiful, supportive family." It felt like they were trying to rewrite history and gaslight not just me, but the entire family network. Their social mask was firmly in place for the public, painting me as the villain who had abandoned them. During this painful evidence-gathering process, wading through digital debris, I stumbled upon something that made the blood run cold. The financial deceit, an email chain between my mother and Emma from last year, dated just weeks after I'd sent the $15,000 for home repairs. They were discussing Emma needing a significant amount of money quickly for an investment opportunity. My mother wrote, "Don't worry, Michael's money came through. We'll use that for you. We can always get the roof fixed later. It's not that bad. Just leaks when it rains hard." Another email confirmed part of the money did go towards a lavish anniversary trip they took earlier this year, which they passed off as a surprise gift from a friend. It wasn't just passive acceptance of my money. It was active, calculated diversion of funds I'd given for a specific, necessary purpose towards Emma's venture and their own luxury. They had lied directly to my face and used my sacrifice to benefit themselves and my sister, all while letting me believe it went to the house. It wasn't just neglect. It was planned financial manipulation. Reading those emails felt like a physical blow. It confirmed the cold, transactional nature of their relationship with me. It wasn't just about the party, I whispered to myself, the emails blurring through tears of pure rage. It was about all of it. Years of gaslighting, manipulation, summarized in this exchange. Armed with this damning evidence, bank records, emails, texts, Mr. Davies felt confident. We decided to request a formal mediation, a structured meeting with a neutral third party, to lay out our case. It was time to stop reacting and start acting strategically, using truth and evidence. The meeting was set for a stuffy conference room downtown. My parents arrived with Emma. Their expressions a mix of indignant self-pity and barely concealed anger. Their lawyer looked bored. Mr. Davies and I sat across the table. I was terrified, my heart hammering, but beneath it was a core of steel, forged in the garage. Mr. Davies began laying out the pattern of my relationship with them, my contributions. Then calmly, he presented the documented evidence of the financial transfers. My parents shifted uncomfortably. Their lawyer perked up slightly. Then came the emails. As Mr. Davies read excerpts, the parts about using Michael's money for Emma and the trip instead of repairs, my mother's face went pale, then flushed crimson. My father started to interrupt, blustering, "That's out of context. Lies." But Mr. Davies cut him off, his voice quiet but firm, holding up the printouts. "These are direct communications, Mr. Smith. Your words." Emma sat frozen, her usual charm replaced by a look of pure panic. Their mask was cracking, crumbling under the weight of undeniable truth. The unexpected witness, the door to the conference room opened quietly. Mr. Davies had mentioned he invited someone who might offer a unique perspective, but I hadn't known who. Standing there, looking slightly uncomfortable, but resolute, was Cousin Mark, the one who stole from them, the one who was seated in the garage with me. He didn't steal the spotlight, didn't make a scene. He simply said, his voice a little rough, looking at my parents. "Look, I know I messed up back then, paid my dues, but putting Michael in the garage, after everything he's done, even I got a real seat inside. I saw it, and I heard some of what was said that night later. The way you talked about him." He shook his head slowly. "It ain't right. He deserves better." His simple, unexpected validation, coming from the person they'd ironically seated above me at the party, was more powerful than any argument the lawyers could make. It wasn't about legal standing. It was about moral clarity from an objective, if flawed, outsider who had witnessed their hypocrisy firsthand. The air in the room thickened with unspoken accusations. My parents and Emma seemed to shrink, their carefully constructed facade collapsing completely under Mark's unexpected, honest testimony in the pile of evidence. The mediation ended with a tense, uneasy agreement. No grand reconciliation, no tearful apologies. That wasn't the reality of this family. Legally, given the evidence, my parents agreed to formally renounce any claim on the money I had contributed, acknowledging it as a loan repaid to protect my future interests. They also agreed, through their lawyer, to cease any defamatory communication. There wasn't a huge financial recovery for me. The money was gone, spent. But the legal documentation meant they couldn't pull the same stunts regarding future assets or inheritance without a clear record of their past actions. It was less about the money, more about the validation. It was about having the truth acknowledged, officially. The cost of the lawyer was significant, a realistic consequence, but worth the peace of mind and the legal shield it provided. The social fallout was immediate and widespread. The family was divided. Some believed my parents' continued story of the ungrateful son. Others, having heard about the evidence or Mark's unexpected appearance, quietly reached out to me, offering support and sharing their own observations about the family dynamic over the years. We always wondered. One distant aunt confessed over the phone. Friends rallied around me, solidifying my chosen family. They weren't shocked. They had seen the patterns from the outside for years. The relationship with my parents and Emma became a vast empty space, limited formal contact via occasional texts about logistics, devoid of any warmth or genuine connection. The performative family unit fractured publicly. There was no more expectation from them, and no more yearning from me. The silence where a family used to be was painful at times, but it was also quiet. It was mine. The months that followed weren't a sudden burst of happiness, but a slow, steady process of healing. It was like recovering from a major surgery, painful, requiring careful attention, but ultimately leading to health. I started therapy, processing years of trying to earn love, of feeling not enough. I learned to recognize the patterns of manipulation and gaslighting so they couldn't affect me the same way. I learned that setting boundaries wasn't mean or selfish. It was an act of self-preservation, an act of self-love. It felt like finally stepping out of a shadow I'd lived in my whole life and learning what my own sunlight felt like. I focused on building my chosen family. Dinners with Sarah and her partner, who celebrated my successes without comparing them and offered comfort without judgment. Connecting more deeply with the few relatives who had shown genuine concern. Investing time and energy into relationships based on mutual respect, honesty, and genuine care. It felt like planting a new garden, one where every plant was chosen with intention and nurtured with real warmth. I still have moments of sadness, seeing other families who seem effortlessly close or when an old memory surfaces. The scar is there, but it doesn't define me anymore. I learned that true family isn't just blood. It's built on respect, trust, and showing up for each other in meaningful ways, not just for show or for financial gain. It's okay to grieve the family you wished you had while simultaneously building the family you deserve. The courage it took to stand up, to say, extend this, wasn't just about that moment in the party. It was the courage to face a painful truth about the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. It was the courage to choose your own well-being and self-respect over a toxic status quo. Looking back, sitting in the quiet of my own living room now, with the only sounds being the gentle hum of my refrigerator and the distant city noise. Not the forced laughter of a party or the angry silence of confrontation. I realized being seated in that garage wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The moment the flimsy walls of illusion came crashing down, forcing me to step outside and find my own path. It was painful. It was public, but it was the catalyst that led me to a life that is finally truly my own.